The previous era was the age that lost to the Honkai but has managed to salvage the situation to have a go at it again in the new current era. This is because the final Herrscher, who despite putting the final nail in the coffin for the previous era, fails to consider the tried and true tactic in the face of annihilation, hiding, which has allowed the survivors to rebuild their civilization at a later date. These aren't your one-of-the-mill fallout shelters, as they also have plans for rebuilding and taking the fight to the Honkai again. They employed a select group of people called pioneers to see these plans through. And out of all these people is Kevin, who is undoubtedly the most important person in this group because he just doesn't know when to stop. Today's episode is dedicated to the backstory of Kevin Kaslana, the things he's gone through, from his greatest victories to his worst failures that transform him from a happy young man to a war veteran stricken with PTSD. This video is part of a series where I compile important events in the previous era into an easily digestible bits, so you have an easier time getting into it. Last time, we talked about how Kevin joined Moth as a soldier to follow May and has since been performing his task quite well, which has made him tougher. But there would be a great reckoning in the form of the Herrscher Fire, which is a big event not only to Kevin but also to the overall picture. To better understand why this event is so important, we need to look at who the Herrscher was. Himiko used to lead a squad in Moth. In one of her journeys, she saved a young girl by the name of Hua, at this point very young. It was during a Honkai disaster in Sapphire. You may have heard about it during Fuhua main story chapters. Himiko took her in as her mentor, putting her under her command. She would take care of her until one day in a concert in Kangaroo Land hosted by the popular idol Eden, Himiko turned into the Herrscher of Fire. The initial eruption took out many in the audience, even her squad mates who were unfortunate enough to be nearby when it happened. Hua was the only lucky one in the squad to have survived. Right after, Moth was quick to respond but was having difficulty because the Herrscher is OP AF. So to solve the problem of not having enough violence, May decided to combine a person's gene with one from a Honkai beast, becoming what we call Mantis. The result of this operation depends on which specific beast was combined with the person, which also need to be suitable in the first place. Kevin was the first to volunteer and went through it successfully, gaining ice power from the beast Povati, and now would have what it takes to slam the Herrscher into the ground, and he would go do just that. This marks an important point in Kevin's life, not just because he became the strongest guy in Moth, but because in the early days of the project, those who came out of it would have some kind of side effect that is the result of the beast genes they were incorporated with. For Kevin, it's his body temperature going sub-zero, which forces him to social distance in order to not send anyone into hypothermia, including May. That last part is very important, because Kevin would find himself dedicating more and more to fighting the Honkai, which would leave him emotionally isolated from others. This event is the turning point for the previous era with far-reaching consequences. The invention of Mantis would dictate how Moth would go fight their future battles, because now Moth can reliably beat back the Herrschers with their cream of the crop Mantis, which are sometimes augmented with divine keys. For Kevin, his trusty divine key Shamash can only be used by himself, because the Shamash flames is so powerful that only Kevin heat resistance can withstand it. He would mostly be responsible for killing every Herrscher that came after, apart from when he failed against the last one. This event also pushed people like Eden, who was scarred by the eruption, into joining the fight. Hua, who got a taste of what's to come, losing people that she cared about, especially her dear mentor, who suddenly tried to kill her. She would be ostracized due to being the only survivor from her former squad led by Himiko. And that is it for the story of the Herrscher of Fire. Join me next time as I talk about Sue and his relationship with Kevin as his best friend. Thanks for watching.